Chapter 4. What Happened to Jack? Jack was as good as his word. He went up to bed at his usual time after saying a polite good night to Miss Ellie, but he didn't get undressed. He put on his coat and cap instead. He wondered whether he dared go downstairs and out the garden door yet. Perhaps I'd better wait and see if Miss Ellie goes to bed early, he thought. She sometimes goes up to read in bed. I don't want to be caught. She'd only go and tell tales when Mother comes home. So he took a book and sat down. Miss Ellie waited for the 9 o'clock news on the radio, and then she locked up the house and came upstairs. Jack heard her shut the door of her room. Good. Now he could go. He slipped his torch into his pocket because it really was a very dark night. The moon was not yet up. He crept downstairs quietly and went to the garden door. He undid it gently. The bolt gave a little squeak, but that was all. He stepped into the garden. His feet sank quietly into the snow. He made his way to the lane and went down it, to the field, flashing his little torch as he went. The snow glimmered up, and there was a dim whitish light all round from it. He soon came to the field where they had built the snowman, and he climbed over the gate. The snowmen stood silently in a group together, almost as if they were watching and waiting for him. Jack didn't altogether like it. He thought one moved, and he drew his breath in sharply. But of course it hadn't. It was just his imagination. Don't be silly, he told himself sternly. You know they are only made of snow. Be sensible and look for your drop button. He switched on his torch, and the snowman gleamed whiter than ever. The one with eyes and nose and mouth, with a cap and a coat on, seemed to look at him gravely as he hunted here and there. Jack turned his back on him. He may only have stone eyes, but he seemed to be able to look with them all the same, he said to the silent snowman. Now don't go tapping me on the shoulder and make me jump. Then he suddenly gave an exclamation. He had found his badge. It lay the button in the snow with S's embroidered on it for a secret 7. Hurrah! He must have dropped it here after all, then. He picked it up. It was wet with snow. He pinned it carefully on his coat. That really was a bit of luck to find it so easily. Now he could go home and get into bed. He was cold and sleepy. His torch suddenly flickered and then went out. Bother, said Jack. The battery's gone. It could have lasted till I got home. Really it could. Well, that's a good thing I know my way. He suddenly heard a noise down the lane and saw the headlights of a car. It was coming very slowly. Jack was surprised. The lane led nowhere at all. Was the car lost? He'd better go and put the driver on the right road if so. People often got lost when the roads were snowbound. He went to the gate. The car came slowly by, and then Jack saw it was towing something. Something rather big. What could it possibly be? The boy strained his eyes to see. It wasn't big enough for a removal van, and it looked rather like the shape of one. It wasn't a caravan either, because there were no windows at the side. Were there any windows at all? Jack couldn't see any. Well, whatever was this caravan? And where was it going? The driver simply must have made a mistake. The boy began to climb over the gate. Then suddenly he sat still. The car's headlights had gone out. The car itself had stopped, and so had the thing it was towing. Jack could make out the dark shapes of the car and the van behind, standing quite still. What was it all about? Somebody spoke to somebody else in a low voice. Jack could see that 1 or 2 men had got out of the car, but he could not hear their footsteps because of the snow. How he wished the moon was up. Then he could hide behind the hedge and see what was happening. He heard a man's voice speaking more loudly. Nobody out, is there? Only that deaf fellow, said another voice. Have a look, will you, said a first voice, just in case. Jack slipped quickly down from the gate as he saw a powerful torch flash out. He crouched behind the snowy hedge, scraping snow over himself. There came the soft crunch of footsteps walking over frosty snow by the hedge. The flashlight shone over the gate, and the man gave an exclamation. Who's there? Who are you? Jack's heart beat so hard against him that it hurt. He was just about to get up and show himself and say who he was, when the man at the gate began to laugh. My word, look there, Nibs. A whole lot of snowmen standing out there. I thought they were alive at first, watching for us. I got his car all right. Another man came softly to the first and laughed too. Kids work, I suppose, he said. Yes, they look real alright in this light. There's nobody about here at this time of night, Mac. Come on, let's get down to business. They went back towards his car. Jack sat up trembling. What in the world could a man be doing down here in the snowy darkness, outside an old empty house? Should he try to see what they were up to? He didn't want to in the least. He wanted to go home as quickly as he could. He crept to the gate again. He heard strange sounds coming from where the men were, as if they were unbolting something, opening the van perhaps. And then came a sound that sent Jack helter-skelter over the gate and up the lane as fast as his legs would take him. An angry, snorting sound, and then a curious high squeal. And then the noise of a terrific struggle, with the two men panting and grunting ferociously. Jack couldn't think for the life of him what the noise was, and he didn't care either. All he wanted was to get home before anything happened to him. Something was happening to somebody, and that was certain. Out there in the snowy lane, it would need a very, very brave person to go and interfere, and Jack wasn't brave at all. That night. He came to his house panting painfully. He crept in at the garden door and locked and bolted it. He went upstairs, not even caring if the stairs creaked under his feet. He switched on the light in his bedroom. Ah, that was better. He didn't feel so scared once he had the light on. He looked at himself in the glass. He was very pale and his coat was covered in snow. Dad was still lying in the snowy ditch below the hedge. He caught sight of his badge, still pinned onto his coat. Well, anyhow, he had that. I went out to find my badge, and goodness knows what else I found, thought the boy. Gosh, I must tell the others. We must have a meeting tomorrow. This is something for the Secret Seven. Wow, what a thrill for them. He couldn't wait to tell them the next day. He must slip out again and go to the shed at the bottom of Frida's garden. He must leave a note there demanding a meeting at once. It's important, very important, said Jack to himself, as he scribbled a note on a bit of paper. It really is something for the society to solve. He slipped down the stairs again and out of the garden door. He wasn't frightened anymore. He ran all the way up the lane and round to Peter's house. The farmhouse stood dark and silent. Everyone was in bed. They did not stay up late at the farm. Jack went down to the old shed. He fumbled at the door. It was locked. His hands felt the big letters S's on the door itself. He bent down and slid his note under the crack at the bottom. Peter would find it next day. Then home he went again to bed, but not to sleep. Who had made that noise? What was that strange high van? Who were the men? It really was enough to keep anyone awake for hours.